Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Zoho Skill Up webinar. Today, we are going to be diving into something pretty interesting because it's fairly new. And we're really going to be talking about how to unlock the power of many-to-many relationships in Zoho CRM. So what does that mean? Well, we're going to explore how and why you can use what we call many-to-many lookups and walk you through some practical examples. And some of the examples that we're going to talk about are things like tracking a contact's employment history across multiple accounts, mapping relationships between contacts, things like recording business relationships between accounts, and even things like maintaining detailed product purchase history by customer. So anything that requires sort of more than just a one-to-one relationship, but a many-to-many relationship. So luckily for something that can be maybe a little confusing to understand up front, but really it's not once you get to see it in action. Luckily, we have an expert on hand. We have Alex from Zoho, who is a specialist, and there he is, right there. This good-looking guy is going to take the next. He's going to be here for the next 25 minutes, walking you through exactly how to leverage this within CRM in your business. If you have any questions as we go through, you'll see on the left-hand side of your screen, there is a Q&A where you can enter in any questions you have. Make sure to stay to the very end of this webinar because I'm going to share with you a link that will allow you to connect with your account manager directly and explore how you can leverage some of the things that Alex is going to be walking us through directly in your business, in your CRM. So it's a quick webinar today, so I don't want to waste any more time. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Alex. Take it away.
Let me go ahead and share my screen. And now, Arun, you can tell me if everyone can hear me all right, if we can see the screen share.
Sound good. Screen share is loading, and there we see Karen client demo.
Perfect. So just to get us kind of proactively started with the chat, I'm going to be going for it, right? Because we do have a pretty short period of time a day. If people want to put in, if they've explored many-to-manys, if they've done stuff like this within their account, if they're new to the concept, that's just going to be helpful for me. I'm going to, look at it briefly, and we're going to have time at the end of the session to talk about specific scenarios and potentially can do follow-up as well. It is a slightly more advanced concept. As an example, if we were to look at a brand new CRM instance or the out-of-the-box configuration, there's going to be a lot of one-to-manys. So the example that I'm going to use today, contacts and accounts, that is a one-to-many that just comes out of the system by default. There are no default many-to-manys, but it's a really common way to enhance the sophistication of data that you'd want to track. So plan for today, I want to explain just what a many-to-many is conceptually, and then as Arun mentioned, a multi-select lookup. That's the actual feature within Zoho that will do that many-to-many relationship. And then I'm going to be going over common scenarios where that can be helpful. This is like a very broad concept. So I'm going to be like the most low-hanging fruit, simple scenarios possible. And then I can talk about more complex relationships models as well. But the goal today, I'm not going to use any custom models for the sake of the demonstration, but that's a very common way that you can continue to grow when you're using these kinds of setups within the tools. So just our high level, what is a many-to-many? I'm actually going to use our friend Karen client here, and we are going to do a one-to-many just to get us started, and then we're going to graduate to our many-to-many. So in here we have Karen client. I have a canvas view on right now, so if this looks a little bit different than what you're used to in your CRM instance, that's because I just have a canvas turned on. The actual data in here, where I have account name, this is just the out-of-the-box field within any CRM instance. So right now we have Karen client, and we say, well, her account is Zilker Solutions. If I click on it, it would bring me to my Zilker Solutions tab. The main thing here is that Karen client can only be associated to one account at a time. Now we could hop in here if we wanted to. We could change it to another account, right? But there's only one that can be connected at a time. And then if we hop over into Zilker Solutions. Again, I have a canvas, but if we use contacts here, this is just that out-of-the-box feature. We're going to have Karen client and all of these various different users. So each of these contacts, Karen, Eden, Carl, all these folks, They are the one, quote unquote, because they can only have one account. The account is going to be the many, because they can have as many different clients as they want associated. This is super useful, super relevant. It's necessary if you're going to be just tracking everyday business relationship, human relationship type models. Limitation here is that very commonly you're going to want to see, well, I have Karen client and she works for multiple different companies, or she used to work for multiple different companies or previous companies, and that's information that I want to have. That kind of information you cannot do with this default lookup, this default one-to-many, without duplicating the record and having like 6 different Karens or something like that. In general, that's something that you'd want to stay away from. Duplication in general is not good, just for maintaining a system that makes sense and you know what's going on. So the solution would be to have a many-to-many relationship. And I will show us, we go back into Karen here. I hop in here. So this is my many-to-many that I created ahead of time. So we're going to have Zilker Solutions, but we're also going to have Zane Manufacturing and Canopy Consulting and all my other made-up names. So we have 5 different accounts that Karen client here is associated with. Any one of these that we would click into, they're going to have this contact section, but it gives the contact the ability to be linked to as many different records, as many different accounts as it want as well. So that is the fundamental, really easy to do. If we were briefly going to hop behind the scenes, so here's my contact module. I'm going to have my multi-select lookup right here. I drag it on in. I say I want to link to accounts. We give it a name. We hit done. We save. That will get you something like I have right here. The next concept that I want to introduce is within the many-to-many, you can also have what's called a lookup table or a join table, where you can actually track information, metadata, if you will, about the relationship itself. So when we're talking about many-to-manys and multi-select lookups, a couple different words for the same things, right? If we were in the builder to check this little box, allow creating relationship-specific modules, if we check this box, that's going to actually let us track additional information about the nature of the relationship itself. So if we go back to Karen, so if we were just to have the many-to-many, we can link as many different accounts as we'd want, but we wouldn't have any data about the nature of the relationship. With that join table, we could see the status, start date, end date, relationship type, who's managing it, information about the actual working history of Karen client here and Zilker Solutions. So she started working for them January 2024, and she's still an employee. Cook Consulting, she worked with them starting January 2024, but that business relationship ended January 2025. So within this actual relationship, within this actual link, we can capture as much data as we'd want about the nature of the relationship itself. Common things that I want to show off, so common examples for the many-to-many. And if you're watching this webinar and you don't really have like obvious ways where you need to have this relationship, contact to account, the employment history, this is a very common one. The other one that I like to show off, we take a look at products. This is what exists out of the box. This is a one-to-many. This is what's default in Zoho. So I could say, well, Karen here is looking at these 5 different products. Here's a product, here's its code, here is its activity date, things like that. But we're not going to have any information about Karen's relationship with the product. I've called this purchase history. That's just my name. What this is, it's a many-to-many that links the contacts module and the products module. And we can see all of the different purchases that were made, when the first purchase was made, if there's like a contract or lease type situations, any of that relational data, the metadata about Karen client and her purchases can all be stored in here. So all we're doing is we're taking something that exists out of the box within Zoho, that's just linking these two together. And we have the many-to-many, which is going to give us additional contextual pieces of data about when that purchase was made, when the first purchase happened, when the most recent purchase happened, any additional metadata that we'd want to capture within there. Last big example. So I have the big three to show off that I have built into this account. Last one to show off is if we want to track relationships between individuals. So this is tracking contacts and other contacts. So this is a many-to-many with the contacts module itself. So in this case, I have Karen client, and we can see that she is the colleague of Carol contact, and a colleague of Tim Allen, and Cindy, and Thomas, and that Talia here is her family, and Tony is a child. So this is a many-to-many relationship with that join table, and it's not going to only tell me that these various different folks are connected, but it's going to tell me the nature of the relationship. You can have a previous colleague, right? Whatever information that we'd want to have about that, the nature of that relationship can be stored within here. Now, some of these are silly, start and end date probably isn't going to be relevant for family relationships, right? But if we want business colleagues, they were a vendor, they were their lawyer, they were their, divorce attorney is one that I've modeled out before. They were their physician, they were their heart surgeon. Any kind of relationship and the nature of that relationship, start and end date can all be tracked within the CRM. You just need to use that many-to-many technology to make it happen. If we were to take a look into this builder, and I'm actually gonna keep pushing through here. So I'm gonna say many-to-many contact relationship. This is a little lengthy. Let's see if it likes that. And I already have it, so I'm going to call this like a more associated contacts or something like that. And our linking module is going to be contact relationships. We can call this whatever we want. We can go back here and change this later. I just want something to exist. But when I go ahead and create that, and I hit save, that is all that would be needed to create the relationship. Now I'm going to show it off very briefly. It's not going to be too pretty because I just made it and I need to integrate it into the canvas here. But if I was to go down below, I can grab whatever different individuals that I want. I'm just going to grab a bunch of people at random here. So I have all these various different folks that are linked. In practice, we'd add it to the canvas, but that relationship has been created. It just needs to, we need to do the canvas to figure out how we want to visualize it a little bit more pretty. The actual creation of that relationship, though, is just a matter of doing the drag and drop within those fields. For the sake of this presentation today, I wanted to lean away from the technical a little too much and go into more practical examples. If we do have time, if people do have specific scenarios in mind, do let me know in the chat and we can kind of workshop, brainstorm how we'd actually build some of those out in practice. In terms of our other big concepts, the actual join tables themselves, so where the relationship data is stored. So if I look at, relationship and status and start date and end date, if we hop in here, anytime, let me find a better example. Anytime, so we have account relationship, this is connecting our contact and our account. We hop over here. Anytime you have the little parentheses, this is indicating that this is a metadata field. So status, relationship date, it's going to be called contact account relation. This is nature about the relationship between the contact and the account itself. Anything that doesn't have these parentheses, right, like phone, website, this is just going to be data from the linked account. So if I was to pull in my phone number or the account type or number or any of this information, that is all data from Canopy Consulting or Zane Manufacturing that's living within that account, actual account itself. Anything, oops, no, I don't want to back up. Anything that has those parentheses on it, that is going to be data about the join that we actually have between these records. If I'm going to right click here, just to bring this record up, I actually hopped into contact and account relation. This is actually created when you have one of these join modules. So we're going to have the metadata, if you will. So we're going to have Karen Client and Zane Manufacturing, Karen Client and Zilker Solutions. This is actually tracking the relationship between the two. If we were to click into one of these, let me go down here and click into it. It's just like a normal module, right, that you could create with custom module or something to that effect, but it's going to be storing any information that you want about the nature of the relationship. So if we wanted to have, we go into the edit mode here. If we wanted to have, I'm going to do something silly, right, but we'll do favorite color, something like that. And we're going to do red and blue. And add that. This is now an eligible piece of information that you can track about the relationship between any contact and any account within the system. If we hop back here, let's see if he wants to load. We hop back there. We're going to add red as our favorite color. We're going to go back into Karen Client. We're going to go into our account relationships. I'm going to search for favorite color, and there it is. So the fact that it's listed as contact account, that means that it is going to be one of our metadata fields. Where is color? Let's move it on up. Get rid of you. That means it's one of our metadata fields, and that's something that we actually want to be paying attention to about the relationship itself. Common examples, and I'm kind of just going to power through some of these, and do let me know if we want to go into more depth with any of these, but connecting contacts and events or campaigns that happen within the system is a common many-to-many. For our example, we've been focused on contacts and accounts. The deals module is very common. So linking contacts and deals in a many-to-many capacity, linking products and deals in a many-to-many capacity, partner tracking, employee tracking. If you're a nonprofit, linking volunteers with specific programs is common. Physicians and hospital, common for the many-to-many. And then, students in courses, different industries. Anytime that you're going to have multiple different individuals that are being tracked with a contract, a deal, an institution, the many-to-many is going to be really relevant, really straightforward to add, because you can have them related in any format that you want, but you can actually track deep information about the nature of the relationship that they have with the two different pieces of information. In terms of our chat here, that is our core concepts. Do we have questions, or do we have any specific scenarios that we want to go through? We have about 5 minutes left, and I've gone through the conceptual side of things, but I'd be thrilled if we'd want to go through a specific scenario, if anyone has anything in mind.
I'm going to read through a couple of the questions that have come through so far, and then we'll see what comes up. So first one, is Canvas View used individually, or does it have to be company-wide?
So Canvas View could be for specific user roles. So down at the bottom, if I go to Canvas assignment here, I created this many-to-many canvas for today, right? But we can see this is very small. So my profile, my administrator has all these different canvases that they can use. My standard has all these different canvases that you can use. If we actually went into the canvas builder, it'll make a little bit more sense. So my many-to-many canvas, that's what we're looking at right now. Yeah, this is bigger, right? So my admin defaults to the many-to-many versus my standard profile defaults to my, I call it full contact, and CRS profile defaults to something else. So it cannot be defaulted to for a user, but it can be defaulted to based off of a user's profile.
Great. Okay. Next question I see came in. Are there any important reporting limitations to keep in mind, thinking about the pros and cons of this versus just using a sub form?
So in general, there's overlap between needing many-to-manys and needing subforms. In general, if you anticipate having more complexity, and that's a very broad statement, but it's like something that you may want to grow on into the future, I default to using the many-to-many because it's basically creating another module behind the scenes. One quick little aside, and I know I'm getting a smidge off topic here. I got 1,000 tabs open. Let me prune this a little bit. So just a quick aside, many-to-manys, we for a long time just had a 2 or multi-select lookup. We had a 2 multi-select lookup limitation per module. So many-to-manys have always been super relevant, but that is a limitation because very commonly in like accounts, you may want to have 5 or something like that. We recently, this year, we increased that limit to 10. So this is kind of a good time to do this webinar because it used to be you could create 2 of these and then you had to call it a day. Now you can do 10, and realistically, if you're linking accounts with contacts and products and sales orders and contracts, like you can get those numbers up there pretty quickly. If you were to ever, let's say you exceed that limitation or something to that effect, you can kind of make a do-it-yourself many-to-many by creating a custom module, and then you just have 2 different lookups. So I do, contact and call your whatever you want, and then I'd have another one for accounts and call it whatever we want. And since you have 100 custom modules in higher editions, you can functionally make as different or as many different many-to-manys as you want. Back into the context of reporting, what I showed you before, you kind of have let's use contacts and accounts. You're going to have 3 tables to report on. You'd have the contact table, you'd have the account table, and you're going to have the join table as a 3rd one. When you're making your reports, you can combine that data in any format that you want. When we're talking about the subform versus the many-to-many with a join, that subform has its own table as well. So for a reporting scenario, like it's pretty similar. It's just you're dealing with multiple different. The reports is basically just a matter of what tables do you actually want to bring in there. Let me know if I can be more specific with that question. In many scenarios, it'll work equally well both ways.
Perfect. Thanks, Alex. We have a few more questions that came in, so we'll try to run through these. On your CRM contact page, you have a number of information boxes along the top. Is it possible to have one that pulls from desk? Last time user submitted a desk ticket or other interaction time.
Correct. Yeah. So if we were, and this is not my main canvas, the main one, I got so many now, I'm going to have to pick through. Are you the one that I want? Do I have desk in here? Yeah, there we go. So if we have something like our Zoho desk tickets, this is the default CRM and desk integration. If we wanted to have, due date for this ticket is May 27th, pretend it's, June 11th or something like that. If you wanted to take this data and then have like most recent desk ticket as a custom field and fill it in up top, that's possible. That is something you need to do with a custom function. So it's possible, but that is kind of a custom function arena that we'd go into. In my canvas, I have next follow-up date, login date, sent email date. These fields can be whatever you want, and these dates can be pulled from anywhere in your CRM or your greater Zoho One database. It will need to be a custom function, though, to populate that and have it populated in real time.
All right, next one. We have 5 minutes left. I need to associate products from deals 1 to display to associated accounts. I'm going to read that again. I need to associate products from deals 1 to display to associated accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Is that possible?
Mm-hmm. So what we have, let me find the appropriate pages just to start with. So what we have here, so if we have deals, this is the out of the box one. This is a one-to-many where it's, hey, you can have as many different deals as you want, and it links back to Zilker Solutions, one specific account. You could say, every time there is a product that, well, I'd actually have to ask a clarifying question. Are your products associated on the deal, or are they associated with a sales order or an invoice that's associated with the deal? Because the answer is yes. We just would need to know where we're going to be pulling your data from. What would work in practice, though, is whenever a deal is closed won, that is your trigger. And then you'd say either, this is something you could do with a custom function as well, either pull all the products associated with this deal, or we look at a closed won sales order or a submitted sales order and pull all the products with that. From there, you can find whatever purchases that were made. This guy keeps on popping up. Sorry about that. But you could find whatever purchases were made, and we could say, they've gotten player Boston Bag. So far, they've gotten 4. When they have some deal and they purchase 3 more of these, this number would increase from 4 to 7 because they have increased the purchase count by 3. So this, what I'm showing you right now, the fully built out instance would say every time they purchase a product within a deal, increase the count of purchased product back within the home account record, so you can see everything that's going on. The actual data you can create using the ManytoMany, the auto increase, right? That's something that you need to do with a custom function. And the trigger would be, on closed won or on sales order created or invoice paid or whatever you want it to be. And you would just increment this number, or it's like, hey, it's a sales return or a sales credit. Maybe that number needs to go down. Those are all things that can be done, but that actual logic would need to use a custom script to work.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to try to get through these last 3 questions in the last 2 minutes. If you update a one-to-many field, if you update one many-to-many linked field, does it update everywhere?
Yes, so it's changing the data structure itself. So if you change something within a module, it's going to change across all the different modules that you have. There are things like customer holding here. There could be fields that I have within the many-to-many that I never use, and I just keep hidden, and maybe I only show in some scenarios and not others. We could have a canvas where it says, hey, if I'm this type of user, show me those fields, and if I'm a different type of user, don't. So if you do change it within, where are we? Custom module. This screen is where I'm trying to get to. Anything that you change here will take effect across the whole system, but there are ways of making a change here, but maybe keeping it hidden or only visible to certain users and so forth.
Awesome. Okay, let me see if we can get through these last 2. When would you use Creator versus custom modules?
So this is a much bigger question. There is overlap, and this is true of a lot of Zoho 1 scenarios. There is overlap between what you can do in CRM and what you can do in Creator. Most of my work is in the CRM, so I'm biased towards that just because I have greater exposure to the CRM and Creator. I'd really want to know, I'd want to learn more about your specific scenario to recommend one over the other. Because again, with my bias disclosed, I normally default to just doing any kind of customization within the CRM. There are scenarios though where Creator is going to make more sense. It is going to, things like calendar widgets, right? That exists out of the box in Creator, and it's not something that exists out of the box to create within CRM. So it's just going to be scenario specific.
Perfect. Okay, let's see.
Yeah,
Go
one
ahead.
thing
What were you
that
gonna
I
say?
will add, because this is something I've been asked before, there isn't any way to be like, oh, can I upgrade my one-to-many into a many-to-many? They are distinct data types functionally. So there's no like, hey, take this one-to-many and turn it into a many-to-many. You would need to, delete and recreate. They're actually different in terms of how the data is tracked in the database. The same way you can't turn a date field into a date time field, you'd have to delete one and then recreate it. That's the same with the one-to-many lookups and the many-to-many lookups. They are distinct. And if you wanted, actually a common scenario is like, you don't need to delete the one-to-many that you have with contacts. You just add a new many-to-many and you can use them both simultaneously. These two aren't going to interfere with each other at all.
Last question. Also, I'll just mention this. I put it in the chat, but I put in the chat a link to book a call with your account manager. So one of the great examples of using this link and booking a call would be the creator versus custom module question, because as Alex mentioned, it really depends on your unique use case, and that's what your account manager is there for. Look at your unique use case and help you figure out issues just like that. Okay, so last question. If we want to move from a subform to a many-to-many, is there an easy way to import them?
So in general, if we have the many-to-many with the join table, that's an important distinction. The many-to-many is just like a concept, right? The subtable is a different, or the join table is another concept where you're actually having the table that you can have any data that you want to have stored in here. This is basically fulfilling the same role that your subform is, where you can have all the data that you'd want to have tracked. In practice, if you'd want to transfer from one to another, that's not like an out-of-the-box automated thing, but you could export your subform as a CSV file or something like that, and then import it into whatever join module that you've created. These are all tables behind the scenes. Without getting too technical, these are all tables behind the scenes. So you can import, export these join modules just like you could any other module within the system.
Perfect. All right, I think we made it through all the questions. We're 3 minutes over, so we'll go ahead and wrap this up. As I mentioned, I put that link in the Q&A for booking a call with your account manager. And what that's for is to just connect with your account manager. They'll dive into your unique implementation of Zoho and then see if there's anything we can do to help streamline and gain efficiency with the way you're doing things. So feel free to click on that link and book a call. Otherwise, be on the lookout. Our next webinar is going to be in 2 weeks. It's going to be going through Zoho Desk, some of the new features in Zoho Desk, and how they can work with your business. So, Alex, thank you so much. I think everybody got a lot out of this. Thank you for diligently sticking around to answer all these questions a little bit over. And thank you guys all for sticking around. Again, as I mentioned, be on the lookout for the next webinar coming up 2 weeks from today. And hopefully we'll see you then. Bye, everyone.